Rachel Hart adjusted the sleeve of her simple linen blouse as she approached the sleek glass facade of the University of Chicago's Mathematics Center. At 35, she didn't exactly blend in with the flood of younger students rushing past her, earbuds in and backpacks slung low. Her fingers fidgeted with the strap of her worn messenger bag, a nervous tic she never quite managed to lose. "You've got this," she whispered to herself, brushing a stray piece of sandy blonde hair behind her ear. Rachel had worked as an administrative assistant at a modest insurance agency for over a decade. She'd never once set foot in a lecture hall of a world-renowned university until today. The invitation had come as a complete shock. A pilot program had launched, one that scouted for exceptional mathematical minds regardless of degrees, based solely on anonymous problem-solving challenges hosted online. For years, while her coworkers gossiped over coffee or discussed reality shows, Rachel would quietly scribble down solutions to complex calculus problems in the break room. Her nights were spent on mathematical forums, deep diving into the same types of equations doctoral students discussed in advanced seminars. "The program is extremely selective, Dr. Leonard said over the phone just a month ago. But your solutions, they were exceptional. We'd like to offer you the opportunity to audit some advanced courses. If things go well, a full scholarship may be on the table." She had almost said no. What did she know about navigating Ivy-cover institutions filled with pedigreed geniuses? But something inside, perhaps the same force that once drove her to teach herself tensor analysis from dusty library books, pushed her to say yes. She paused at the towering glass doors, catching her reflection. Simple clothes, no makeup, and a look of hesitant determination. Not someone you'd mistake for a math prodigy. Just a quiet woman with a loud mind no one had ever really heard. She took a breath and stepped inside. The corridor buzzed with intellectual fervor. Students murmured in clusters about theorems and proofs. Rachel spotted hardcovers that cost more than her week's groceries. Books she'd only accessed via interlibrary loan or PDFs downloaded from obscure academic forums. "Room 314, she muttered, checking the folded campus map she had printed the night before. Advanced Theoretical Calculus. Professor Catherine Brenner. Even Rachel knew the name. Dr. Brenner's publications were legendary. Her textbooks the gold standard in graduate-level math. One of them sat on Rachel's nightstand, full of margin notes and sticky tabs. She found the room and paused, heart hammering. Inside lay the world she'd spent her life studying from the outside. Now or never, she told herself. She opened the door. The buzz of conversation ceased instantly. Rows of students in hoodies, jeans, and upscale sneakers turned their heads. Rachel felt their eyes scan her beige blouse, her sensible shoes, her cheap satchel. She slipped into a seat near the front. The young man next to her shifted slightly away. "Is this seat taken?" she asked gently. "No," he muttered, not looking up from his tablet. She pulled out a spiral notebook and laid down her pencils, each one sharpened to a precise point. Whispers floated around her like smoke. "Is she one of those online program people? No credentials, I heard. Wonder if she even knows what she signed up for." She stared at the blank page in her notebook and didn't respond. It wasn't the first time she'd been judged for looking like she didn't belong. The room was designed like a lecture amphitheater, with tiers of seats looking down at a massive chalkboard that stretched across the front wall. Above it hung portraits of great mathematicians, Newton, Gauss, Euler, all cast in gold frames, all solemn, all male. 2 seats over, a student with sleek glasses leaned toward her friend. "Dr. Brenner's going to destroy her," she whispered. "She doesn't even let grad students talk unless they're quoting published theory," the friend replied. "But she cries before we hit the hour mark." Rachel's grip on her pencil tightened. If only they knew how many nights she'd stayed up solving problems Brenner had published in peer-reviewed journals, just for fun. The side door creaked open, and silence fell like a dropped curtain. Professor Catherine Brenner strode in, her silver blonde hair in a tight twist, dressed in a structured navy suit and low heels. Her presence alone commanded attention. Following her was a younger professor in a soft gray blazer. "Dr. Monica Leonard, the woman who had called Rachel about the program. Dr. Brenner set her leather folder on the desk and surveyed the room. Her sharp gaze swept across the students until it landed on Rachel. Something flickered. Curiosity, perhaps? Amusement? Her lips curled, almost imperceptibly. "Welcome to Advanced Theoretical Calculus," she said, voice clear and brisk. "This course will test the limits of your mathematical capabilities. For those of you who belong, it will be a journey of intellectual rigor. For those who do not," her eyes returned to Rachel. "The drop deadline is Friday." Rachel sat straighter. She wasn't leaving. Not after everything she'd done to get here. She didn't know that Dr. Brenner had already decided she would serve as an example, a cautionary tale about the dangers of admitting amateurs into serious academic spaces. 20 minutes in, Rachel was transfixed. Dr. Brenner, for all her icy reputation, was a phenomenal teacher. Concepts that once felt abstract unfolded like stories. Rachel jotted notes feverishly, her mind aligning familiar patterns with newly introduced methods. She found herself occasionally predicting what would come next. "And now we tackle this differential equation," Dr. Brenner said, turning to the board. "It requires careful manipulation of multivariable chains." Rachel nodded instinctively. She'd solved a variation of it last year. A few students noticed and snickered. "Something amusing, Ms.?" Dr. Brenner turned. Chalk paused midair. Rachel looked up. Ruchelhart. I was just following along." "Oh, you find advanced multivariate calculus so basic that it merits a casual nod." The class chuckled. Dr. Leonard frowned from the back of the room. Dr. Brenner wasn't finished. "Perhaps, then, you'd like to solve the next one for us." She gestured to a complex integral now scrawled across the board. Rachel hesitated. The equation was tricky, but not unsolvable. The hard part was doing it in front of 30 strangers and one professor who clearly wanted her to fail. I see." Brenner turned back to the board. "This is precisely why credentials matter." Dr. Leonard took a step forward. "Kate. No, Monica. The students deserve to see the difference between hobbyists and professionals." Rachel stood slowly, her heart pounding. The board stretched before her like a cliff face. She took the chalk. Brenner's eyes narrowed. She expected a disaster. But Rachel didn't freeze. She studied the equation, remembered a similar structure she'd once unraveled on a napkin in a diner. She started to write. Her handwriting was clean and deliberate. The room went still. Her first lines mirrored textbook steps, but midway through she diverged, using a substitution technique that reduced the complexity. Dr. Leonard's eyebrows lifted slightly. Rachel kept going, simplifying nested layers that normally took 15 steps into 8, her solution graceful and lean. At one point, Brenner shifted her stance, heels tapping once, twice against the tile. Rachel boxed her final answer and turned around. The room was silent. Brenner approached, scanning the work. Her lips pressed thin. Dr. Leonard stepped closer, awe in her voice. She bypassed Peterson's whole framework. "How did you see that?" Rachel shrugged, folding her hands. "It reminded me of a symmetry in Karen's optimization method. I played around with a hyperbolic transform." "That's not in the curriculum," a student said, blinking. "I figured it out," Rachel replied softly. Brenner stared at the board. It wasn't just correct. It was elegant. "An unconventional method," she said at last, her tone clipped. "Though such shortcuts don't always scale well in more advanced applications." Rachel nodded politely. She didn't need validation. The equation spoke for itself. 30 minutes later, as class wound down, Brenner turned back to the board. "Before we leave, let's try a more challenging exercise, perhaps MS." Hart would like to demonstrate her technique again. A harder equation appeared, far more intricate. "A trap." Dr. Leonard intervened. "Catherine, we're almost out of time. Perhaps next class?" "Unless she's afraid," Brenner said smoothly. Rachel stood. "I'll try." She studied the equation. It was deceptive, built to mislead. She started with the standard approach, then paused. A shift in coordinates revealed the problem's hidden symmetry. Her chalk moved quickly. Gasps rose from the front row. At the hour's end, Rachel boxed her solution again. Brenner examined it silently. "Dr." Leonard whispered. "You used an embedded Jacobian transformation. That's graduate level." Brenner's jaw tensed. "A creative approach," she conceded at last. Class dismissed. As students filed out, they hovered around Rachel. "That was amazing. Can you show me that substitution again? Where'd you even learn that?" Rachel was stunned. Just an hour earlier, these same students had whispered that she'd cry before the bell. "Dr." Leonard approached. "MS. Hart, I'd like to speak with you in my office. We need to reconsider your placement in this program." Outside the lecture hall, the buzz followed her. Students glanced her way with curiosity. A few nodded. One stopped her near the stairwell. "We have a study group Thursday nights," he said awkwardly. "You should join." "I'll think about it," she replied, unsure how to process the sudden warmth. As Rachel walked through the hallway, her steps felt lighter. "Dr." Leonard's offer still rang in her ears. Formal enrollment, scholarship consideration, and a submission to the department's journal. Her phone buzzed. A text from her coworker. "How'd the fancy math class go?" Rachel smiled and typed back. "It went well. I think things might be changing." Outside, the sky was streaked with gold. As she descended the steps, she spotted Dr. Brenner across the quad. Their eyes met. No smile, no nod, but recognition. Rachel turned toward the bus stop. Today hadn't erased all barriers. It hadn't made her path easier, but it had done something better. It proved what she had always suspected. Real ability speaks for itself. Credentials could open doors, but brilliance could knock them down.